They are having a meeting at Vought on who controls the soups, and Edgar takes responsibility for the soups. Edgar wants Compound V to be top secret because the soups don't know about Compound V and he doesn't want other countries to have it. They argue about collateral damage and Edgar expects some damages, but they will try to avoid it as much as possible. Black Noir is on a mission and starts slaughtering everyone. The captain explodes to eliminate Black Noir, but he survives the explosion. Black Noir ends him and Homelander announces the good news at Translucent's funeral. He also starts spreading propaganda that they need to eliminate all the soup villains. Annie and Huey get ready and they meet each other on the subway. Huey gives her info on someone and he leaves after a small argument because he's worried about Annie's safety. The Deep is having a mental breakdown, so the police had to arrest him. Eagle bails the Deep out. When the Deep wakes up, Eagle introduces Carol to him and she gives him a fresca. Then they have a therapy session with Carol as their teacher. The Deep leaves because he doesn't want to talk about it until Carol offers to get him back into the Seven. On the news, they accuse Butcher of ending Madeline, but we all know it was Homelander, and then they argue on what to do because they are wanted. Huey wants to think of a plan, but knows they're done and walks away. Homelander is drinking Madeline's milk and suddenly Ashley barges in to thank Homelander for recommending her for Madeline's job. Then she showed Homelander a potential candidate to become one of the Seven. They watch Blind Spot train, but Homelander thinks he's a joke because all he has to do is take out his hearing and he's done for. He roasts Ashley for bringing in a cripple into the Seven because all she needs to do is to tell him what's happening on the 99th floor. Annie stalks Gecko and sees another guy chopping his arm off. Once she is done filming it, she leaves. Gecko offers to let him chop off his dick for more money, and the guy takes the offer because he can grow his limbs back. At the hideout, they bring an injured person, but there is nothing can do to fix it. Frenchie argues with his buddy and finds out a soup injured the guy. They go to the location to find out they are smuggling people in, and one of them was a soup. When they go back, Kimiko tries to tell Frenchie the soup at the docks might be her brother, but he doesn't understand her. They are thinking about how they will deal with the soup, and Huey brings up messaging Annie on the down low. Freaks out because they could have followed Huey and all of them would be arrested. He freaked out because he wanted to go back to his family and not get dragged to jail. Huey is pushing going after the soups because he has nothing going for him. Annie runs into Gecko at a diner and they catch up. She asks if Gecko could steal Compound V for her. Gecko tries to make excuses, but Annie blackmails him with the video she took earlier. When Homelander and Queen are shooting a promo, Stormfront exposes them on a live stream. She introduced herself as Translucent's replacement. Homelander visits Edgar because he wasn't informed of Stormfront joining the Seven. He threatens to leave and Edgar changes the topic to Frederick Vaught's history of creating Compound V. Edgar lets him know that he's not as important as Compound V and how he created supervillains to get into the military because people are finding out about Compound V. Once they are done, Homelander flies over to Becca to see his son Ryan. They are playing catch and Homelander tries to teach Ryan how to use his powers, but Becca interrupts them because he has math class. Becca rushes to talk with Dr. Park after dropping Ryan at math class because she had a deal to never having to see Homelander again. Dr. Park doesn't want to piss off Homelander anymore, so there is nothing they can do until he gets bored of them. Homelander tries to connect with Ryan on his god complex and Ryan tries to avoid it by going to sleep. Becca demands Homelander to leave them alone once they say their goodnights, but he plans to stay for the long run, so Dr. Park can go F himself. On the car ride to meet Susan, warns Huey that he's putting Annie in a tough situation because if Homelander finds out, she's dead. They update Susan on their situation when they meet and describes the soup, who was smuggled in. When Susan figures out what Vought is doing, her head explodes and they rush out of there as quickly as possible. They are cleaning themselves up and thinks someone is watching Susan, and when she says the wrong thing, she dies because their head didn't explode with hers if they were the target. Annie calls Huey about the good news and thinks of ways to expose Vought, but Huey wants her to chill because it's too dangerous. Butcher shows up at the hideout because Frenchie called him so they can have a captain. We get a flashback after Homelander brought Butcher to see Becca, and when he wakes up again he's lying in the parking lot. He goes into a restaurant to find out where he is and writes down what he remembers when he saw Becca. When Butcher goes out to meet with a contact, Huey starts arguing with him because he abandoned them, but Butcher has a great comeback. Grace pays her respect to Susan at her funeral, but she notices a fruit basket. When she leaves, she knows Butcher is in her car and he asks for Grace's help to get revenge for Susan. Butcher goes back to the hideout to tell them Grace will help them if they can get a supervillain, and the CIA will scrub their records clean. The Deep is having his session with Carol, but she knows he's having an identity crisis. Eagle makes the Deep tea from mushrooms so he can experience his journey. The Deep starts hallucinating and his gills start talking to him about his fear of women humiliating him for his gills. We find out Deep's name is Kevin and he starts freaking out. After resting, his gills helps him love himself. The girls are having a press tour for their newest member Stormfront. They continue with other press conferences with Ashley, but Queen gets a call and she bails savagely. Queen goes to the hospital to see how Elena is doing and tries to make up, but Queen can't change. Elena finds out why Queen keeps their relationship on the down low because Homelander might cause problems. The others are shooting an interview and A-Train suddenly shows up, which makes Annie surprised. After the interview, Annie talks with A-Train about the incident, but when she is trying to get more information from him, he walks away. Annie talked with Stormfront for a bit until Gecko showed up to give Annie the compound V. A-Train saw Annie putting the package away and searched her, but Annie put the package into Stormfront's bag before A-Train searched her. After the interview, Annie tries to prove to Stormfront that she's not a sellout, but she has issues exposing Vought in front of her until Stormfront tells her to do whatever she wants. Before Stormfront leaves, Annie retrieves the compound V from her bag. The boys prepare to capture the escaped Soup and they go in separate groups to find him. Kimiko finds a man in a room and kills him because he is part of the group that kidnapped them. She looks for her brother Kenji and they find each other for their long-awaited reunion. Huey tries to warn Butcher not to shoot him with the tranquilizer, but he does it anyway, so Huey gets in his way. Kenji uses his powers to throw them back and Kimiko runs away with her brother. Butcher wants to kill Huey once they get out of the rubble, but MM stops him. He tells Huey to F off while they look for them. Frenchie and MM are siding with Huey this time because Butcher is going too far. Butcher decides to tell them Becca is alive and how Homelander was humiliating him by showing him his family. He pleads for their help because Grace offers to find Becca if they can capture Kenji. Kimiko and Kenji are on the swings and he apologizes for not getting shipped out together. She blames herself for not finding him because she's older than him. They talk about their experience with getting injected with compound V and console each other on the pain they had to go through. Kenji finds out the group she is with will keep her safe. Kimiko offers to go back to their motherland, but she finds out Soup villains are being hunted down outside of the USA. They start arguing if the Shining Light group is good or evil, and Kenji tries to recruit her to help him fight back, but she is against it. Kenji decides to do it alone, but Kimiko stops him, so he knocks her away to get away. When she is about to catch up, he throws her away, but she still catches him. The boys show up to pick them up, but before they go, Butcher gives Huey a physical warning to not get in his way to get Becca back. When Annie goes home to text Huey, A-Train zooms in and catches her with compound V. A-Train is planning to expose her to Homelander, but Annie calls him on his bluff because she doesn't mind going down with A-Train and takes back the compound V. The boys are out in the sea to meet with Grace's people and Butcher apologizes to Huey for going too far. Huey surprise attacks Butcher until MM comes out to stop them. Butcher calls Grace to find out their ETA and she finds out the target is Kimiko's brother. If any problem arises, Butcher assures her he wouldn't mind taking them out. Frenchie and Kimiko heard it and gave him the death stare. Kimiko goes to reason with his brother, but he tries to get Kimiko's sympathy to let him go. She doesn't fall for it and leaves. Homelander is having breakfast with the family, but Becca is annoyed he's still there. He takes Ryan out to teach him how to fly because Spanish is boring. Ryan doesn't want to jump off the roof, so he just pushes Ryan off the roof and he faceplants. Becca is furious and they start arguing. Ryan's power emerges, pushing Homelander off Becca, and he wants nothing to do with Homelander. Kevin has another session after the shrooms trip and expresses how his powers took his normal life away. Adam is presenting a screenplay, but Stormfront is having issues with some of the headlines. Ashley gets an important message, so she rushes out to speak with Edgar about, but he just her to keep them in check while he handles it. On the news, they report how the Soups get their powers and how people from Vought haven't commented on the issue. Annie is just enjoying it and A-Train shows up. He confronts her about exposing Compound V, but she's fine with the outcome because she can drag A-Train down with her if he blabs. He is concerned about it because it's going to mess with their money and he leaves after. Black Noir has a breakdown after hearing the news. The boys see the news and they are ecstatic with the news. Butcher isn't excited because Kenji is still down there and shit can still go south. Frenchie wants to help Kimiko, so he baits Kenji with food and water. Kenji doesn't want to teach him their sign language, so he leaves. He uses his powers to free himself once Frenchie leaves. The NYPD shows up to arrest them, so Butcher tries to BS his way out of it. Everything went to shit when Kenji took down the helicopter. Before they get away, Huey throws in a rescue tube in case they survive. Grace calls Butcher to change their meeting location to the CIA safe house. On the way, the boat collides with something and Butcher notices sharks are smashing into the boat, which causes a leak. They hop on the speedboat to get away, but Kevin catches up to them. Kevin uses the whale to block their path, so Butcher runs the boat into the whale, which knocks Kevin out. They get out for the whale other than Huey, who decides to stay back. guilt trips Huey to leave with them and they follow after Butcher. Homelander goes back to Vought and finds out that Compound V is exposed to the public after talking with Queen about her girlfriend. Vought's stock price is tanking and all the execs are panicking because shit is hitting the fan. Edgar goes to speak with the Seven to help save Vought and capture Kenji. They don't want to help, but Homelander makes a compelling speech to kill the supervillains. The Seven show up later and Kevin tells Homelander they went into the storm drain. Annie gets triggered because Kevin is there, so she starts arguing with him. Stormfront gets them back on track on the mission, but when A-Train is looking for him, he starts having a heart attack until Homelander shows up. Huey notices footsteps, so he hides until he sees Annie, but she hits him with an energy blast. Homelander shows up and gets Annie to kill Huey, otherwise they both die. Butcher stops them from doing so and gets Kenji to knock Homelander down. Kenji takes this opportunity to run away while Kimiko follows him. When Kimiko catches up to get him to stay, Stormfront hits them with an electric strike. She kills the bystanders and goes after Kenji. Kimiko comes just in time to save him and they run away. Stormfront follows after them, but along the way, she kills more bystanders and destroys the building. She catches Kimiko so Kenji helps Kimiko, but that gave Stormfront the chance to break Kenji's hands. Kimiko watches Stormfront kill Kenji and she escapes. After that, the 7 are doing community service while Edgar pushes all the blame onto Madeline and he props up Stormfront for saving the day. The news is reporting about Kenji while Frenchie tries to comfort Kimiko with a kiss. Frenchie rushes out because Kimiko is about to kill him for it. Butcher goes out to meet with Grace and she gives Butcher information on Liberty, who was a second-tier sup, active in the 70s because she was after Susan's private servers. Before Butcher leaves, Grace gives him Becca's location because she feels guilty for all the deaths. Butcher goes back to pack up to find Becca and lets lead the team while he's gone. Homelander is pissed off at what Stormfront is saying on the news and flies to a cabinet to meet with Madeline. When they are watching a movie together, Homelander complains about Stormfront taking his glory and how he's not getting any respect from the other members. Madeline comforts him, but suddenly Doppelganger changes back to his original form and Homelander demands him to change back so he can comfort him. Homelander goes back to Vought to confront Annie in the elevator for not listening to his order. He started attacking Annie, but she made a nice lie to save herself. Annie goes out to meet with Huey to discuss Vaught's situation, and exposing them didn't do much. Calls Huey for a mission, and after the call Annie breaks down because she doesn't want to go back to Vought. Huey brings her to the meetup location, but is against Annie joining the mission because having her there could cause them problems. Lets her tag along because of Huey. On the way, is annoyed with them jamming to a song when they should be acting low-key. Later, Annie and connect because of their fathers and they cheers to that. They witness a car accident and Annie is forced to not help because they need to avoid any issues. They go to a motel to rest, and Huey decides to be with while Annie gets her room. Due to snoring, Huey meets with Annie outside to have a bonding moment, leading to some bedroom fun. A-Train sees Shockwave leaving, so he confronts Ashley, but she lies about why Shockwave was there. Homelander gives it to him straight and tells him Shockwave is replacing him because of his heart attacks. A-Train freaks out, but there is nothing he can do about it. At nightfall, Butcher sneaks into the place where Becca is being held. Becca notices her car door unlocked, so she checks it out to find Butcher inside. She takes Butcher to a place without cameras to talk. The reason Butcher got away last time was because Becca planned to manipulate Ryan to hate Homelander, so that's why Butcher is alive. They plan their escape and Becca ends their reunion early because Vought will get suspicious if she's out for too long. When Ryan is asleep, Becca goes out to meet with Butcher to enjoy a long-awaited lovemaking session. Once they're done, they talk about what happened after Becca disappeared. A drunken Frenchie visits Sherry for a booty call, and once they're done, he talks about helping Kimiko, but she is pushing him away. After an interview, Homelander sees Stormfront stirring the pot for Vought. Kimiko is ready to kill her, but Frenchie is there to stop her from fighting an unwinnable battle. Stormfront flies away, which pisses off Kimiko. Homelander goes through the memes and gets pissed off, so he goes to confront her in an outburst. He is ready to laser her, but she talks her way out while seducing him. She offers to help him, but he doesn't want her help and leaves. Annie, Huey, and arrive at the location and they ask Valerie about Liberty. She didn't want to answer any questions until told her a personal story about his father. Valerie tells them she witnessed Liberty killing her brother and hopes they won't spread the story because Stormfront is Liberty. On the way back, they think Stormfront popped Susan's head because she was getting too close. When they get back, Huey walks her back, but she doesn't want to continue their relationship because of safety reasons. She kisses him and they go their separate ways. Becca is late for their escape plan because she knows Butcher will try to get rid of Ryan along the way. Butcher wants to leave him behind because Vought would be on their ass, but Becca doesn't want Vought to raise him and that's why she is staying. He finds out the truth that she was R-worded by Homelander. The reason she didn't tell Butcher and went to Vought instead is because she knew he would seek revenge. She forces Butcher to leave her be and she goes back. Black Noir gets Anika to run a background check on Butcher and gets her to track down Butcher. After a long day, Anika finds Butcher when he jumps over the wall to get to Becca. Homelander goes to the cabinet to have Doppelganger to change into him and he feels confident on who he is. He kills Doppelganger and his true self emerges. Well, that's it for The Boys Part 3. If you got up to this far, here it is Part 4 on the right and more recaps on the other side. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.